Welcome to the Thomas Loop Radio Show on AM 1440 WJJL. It airs Wednesdays at 10 a.m. However, this gentleman has given me a great time and I'm glad he's giving up his time. We're Thursday, May 26th, 2016. He is a multiple All-American from Brigham Young University, two-time track, two-time cross-country. He was a state high school champion as well. And I'm sort of going backwards into the timeline because when I read about him, he had a conventional path of what you would think to where he has gotten to today, but yet he had another unconventional path to where he is today. So he was a state champion. He is a U.S. marathon champion in 2015, and I remember also he sort of snuck up on you on the charts. He was a very good distance runner on the roads last year and this year. He sort of crept up on you, and yet, who is this gentleman? Well, this gentleman's going to be in the U.S. He already qualified for the U.S. team for the Olympic trial marathon, which makes him a USA team member going into Rio de Janeiro 2016. He qualified in the men's marathon. His name is Jared Ward, and I want to thank you very much for being on board.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Tom.
Jared, I saw the race again. And, we were talking off air. I'm a closet geek, so I like to break down things, and we'll get down to that a little bit later because you yourself like to crunch numbers. And I was watching, and you sort of just hung in there. You were right there, and then about 20 and three-quarters miles, you put a dent. I mean, when you made that move to overtake that third spot, you didn't just pass the gentleman. As track and field coaches would tell us, when you pass somebody, you better mean it. And you went right by him, and you maintained. What were you thinking when you sought the opportunity at that point of the race?
Well, just like you say, and you're a runner yourself. You got to take advantage of those passes to really put a stamp on what you're doing. Everyone out there is competitive, and if you give somebody a chance to decide, they want to try to run with you, oftentimes they do. And so I was certainly thinking, well, pass with enough authority that we put the stamp on this third place.
Now the course was warming up during the day. And it seemed like it was dominant in open settings, meaning there was very little shade as you were heading toward the University of Southern California's campus. How were you able to mentally block that out during the race?
I think I'm just, I'm worried about staying relaxed, running my pace, getting to the next place where I can get some more water in me, thinking about how I can manage my hydration out there when it's hot. I think you really, when the conditions get bad or less than ideal, you just focus on what you're doing and what you can do, and make sure you do those things well, and hopefully those can-do thoughts can occupy your mind and keep you away from that interference. Thinking about how hot it is. Is not going to help you. Thinking about how you need to get water in you and where you're going to get your next water bottle, that's productive. And so I tend to try to stick towards productive thoughts.
Sort of hitting landmarks, so to speak, for example. That you just give there. Yep. He's Jared Ward. He's also on Team USA for the men's marathon coming up Rio de Janeiro. In a short time from now. Where are you training out of?
So we'll be I'm in Provo, headed up to Park City in about 2 weeks here. So we'll spend the rest of the build-up for Rio up in Park City at altitude.
Hey, you've been born at altitude, correctly? You pretty much
lived through. Born in northern Utah, yeah.
Now, obviously, physiologically and statistically, it's been proven that those born in altitude and who, are gifted such as yourself, continue to train, that there is an advantageous effect. Has that proven true to you? Because I get how difficult this sport is.
No, sure. I don't really have a sea level control to compare things to. I've never trained at sea level. I certainly feel the difference racing at sea level than racing at altitude. But I've lived at about 4,000 and 4,500 feet and trained for my whole life up until getting ready for the Olympic trials. My wife said, you know what, we're going to go up to Park City. We're going to get up to that optimal altitude. They say that the sweet spot for training is in between 7,000 and 8,000 feet.
Right.
And so we did that before the Olympic trials, and that was really my first time at that significant of an altitude. And it worked so well that we thought we'd do it again for this next one.
Yeah, and those who research it over the years say it is not what you do while you're running at that altitude, it's what you do while you're sleeping. Were you restless the first few days trying to adjust to almost double the altitude in which you were training?
I wouldn't say restless, but I certainly was more tired. I think one of the biggest things that happens when you take yourself into less oxygen is you don't recover as fast, and you need more rest. That's where you get your benefit. And so I certainly felt tired for the first couple of weeks as I adjusted for my body to try to recover up there where there's not a lot of oxygen for recovering.
And I'm going to go back to the race. There was a cool moment when you crossed the finish line, and it was awesome all across the board by all three athletes who made the team. You were more noteworthy where you went forward, you went on your hands and knees, and then a certain gentleman poured water all over you. What was that moment like?
Mev's a special guy, and I almost look at him like he's the older brother for all of us Americans running on the road circuit and other races around here. He really just looks out for all of us, and so to be greeted across the line to Mev Keflezighi's open arms, and then on the pavement in exhaustion, having him, he's still looking out for me. He's looking for water and dumping that on me, and he really does take care of all of us like he's the older brother of American distance runners.
Now, let's talk about another older brother. I remember growing up, before I even got into distance running, I didn't get into it until I was 19. That was about, get ready, Jared, 1994, 95. And you were 7, something like that. And there was a gentleman beforehand, though. I was always fascinated by the track and field. I was a baseball player for years. But I do recall this particular big brother was on a couple of Olympic teams as a marathoner who happens to be your coach. Is that
Yeah, Coach Eyestone is also a hero.
He was a very gritty, intelligent athlete himself. What is it like? What is your experience like to have worked and continue to do so with Coach Eyestone?
I feel like my relationship with Coach Eyestone is amazing, even more so than just the athlete-coach relationship. It's probably, bridges a little closer to the, father-son relationship or really even that older brother type relationship. He cares about more aspects of my life than just my running, and he really helps me to focus on becoming a better person as well as just an athlete. He's a motivational person just to be around. Describe
a sample training week of you. I'd say your second phase training toward the Olympic trials in Los Angeles. I mean, you ran out there the year before. You were third overall. You became the U.S. champion. You were basically defending your crown. And you go out there and, describe the lifestyle of what it is like being you, generally.
Well, it's just it's strikingly similar to what life was in college. In fact, if you ask my 4-year-old son what's changed since Dad graduated from school, he would tell you nothing has changed. Dad still wakes up and goes to school. I'm just teaching now instead of the students, a little on the other side of things. And then Dad runs all the time. And so I feel like my life has been very similar for the last few years. I get up in the morning, I'll get a 10, 12, 14-mile run in the morning, and I have some guys in Provo that I'll run with, and then I'll go on campus, teach a class, have some office hours, go again running in the afternoon. Tuesdays and Thursdays I meet coach either in the morning or the afternoon for some intervals or strength, speed session, something, and then on Saturday mornings we get in a long run somewhere in the vicinity of 20 miles.
What do you do in those 20-mile type runs, the long run?
So we're doing, I try to take advantage of those in terms of practicing how I'm hydrating, how I'm getting my nutrition in me. I really take those long runs seriously in terms of marathon preparation. So we try to simulate, the course-like conditions of what these courses will be like. We try to get out on the roads that are similar topography is what I'll be racing on, and then get water bottles out there so I'm drinking what I'm going to be drinking, get my glucose in those bottles, which is what I'll be drinking during the marathon. And so I use those as practice sessions, and a lot of times coach will have me throw in a 6 or 8 mile marathon pace effort in the middle of those runs, so I can kind of practice what that pace feels like when we're a little bit tired, when we're in the middle of a grinder, and we really use those as race simulators.
How cool is it to be able to work at your alma mater? I've experienced it as well. I competed there in Division III athletics at a college out in Buffalo, New York. Buffalo State College. It was a Division III school. And then I eventually became the assistant head coach in the mid-2000s of track and cross country. And to be back at my alma mater felt like it's one of the greatest feelings I've had as an athlete and a professional on the field and in coaching. What's it like for you to be able to do what you do for your alma mater?
Oh, it's awesome, and it's fun to still be around the guys on the team. I just graduated from, or finished my running 2 years ago, and so some of the guys on the team now were guys that I was teammates with, and some are new, but they're all great guys, and so it's fun to still feel like I'm staying young in sorts. I still run with those guys and share a locker room with those guys, and that's an incredible experience. And then to be coached by the same coach, but also, to be there on campus teaching has been quite an experience. I like teaching even more than I thought that I would. When I finished up my degree last summer in the statistics department, they asked me if I'd be willing to teach a couple of courses adjunct for them, and I said great. And then they told me they'd pay me for it, and I thought great again. It just seemed like such a great opportunity, and I've often thought that someday, when this running is done, that I might find myself teaching in some sort of sense, whether that's high school or junior college, or I guess at a university, something like that. So that was a career path that I had entertained, and it's been a fun opportunity to be able to kind of dabble in it while I'm really focusing on my running.
It really is a virtual resume builder. It really is. His name is Jared Ward. He's on the men's Olympic team for the men's marathon for Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. And I was reading up. I told you I had family out in Salt Lake City, and there's a different feel at Brigham Young University, it seems, where it's unconventional, where it is required to go on a mission toward your degree. Is that required? Before I get that out of the way. No, it isn't. Not required.
I mean, the mission service is encouraged in the church.
Okay.
But there's a number of students at BYU that are not LDS. I mean, it's a private college, but no, not part of the education.
Okay. Now, but you went somewhere, I believe in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to do something like that. What was that experience like?
Oh, it's fantastic. I grew up so much. I graduated from high school and decided I did want to serve that 2-year mission and wanted to do it before I did any college. So I went straight out of high school to Pittsburgh, and that was really a growing up time for me. I learned how to live life without mama by my side, and really, kind of galvanized myself in terms of digging down and finding out what I really believed and what I really wanted out of life. And I came back from that experience much more grounded, I would say.
Now, you came back and you're going in. I was an older upperclassman too. I went back to school later as well, but not like the way you did. In another unconventional means. You went back, you become a 4-time All-American in track and in cross country, 2 of each, and then you graduate and you hit the roads. What's it like competing on the U.S. running circuit on the roads?
Oh, it's a blast. You just become friends with these guys that you race every other month. They'll room us together, and so every new race is a new opportunity to room with one of your competitors and get to know them a little bit better. And the gun goes off, and we're competitors, but you become friends with all of those guys too. And you get a tour. You get a tour of the country. There's races in New Haven. I just got back from Grand Rapids. You get Minnesota, Alexandria, West Virginia, or Virginia. We just get to go to so many different places and experience different areas, and then you get to tour the city on a race, and it's a fun way to live life.
If there's a singular or double moment leading up to the Olympic trial, and you're on the road circuit, that made you not think that you can do it, because obviously everybody who's on that road circuit wants to get to where you want to be. So with that being said, which was the quintessential single or double race or moment in a race that said, yeah, it's all the way on now?
I think of a number of times where I've had kind of those moments during races, and those are the funnest races where, you decide, here we go. You're racing all on adrenaline, and you're all in. You're not thinking about how bad you're hurt or how tired you are or how heavy your legs feel or anything else. You're just thinking, I'm going to race this guy. One race that comes to mind was the U.S. 20K championships last year out in New Haven,
beautiful town.
And we were coming down the home stretch, and there's a pack of 4 or 5 of us with a mile and a half to go, and we're all just going, and I'm listening to the other guys breathing, and they're all breathing hard, and I'm breathing hard, and I think, all right, let's just see what happens. And then one guy moves, and a couple guys go with him, and another guy moves, and everyone's kind of putting in their last surges, and then fortunately I was the last guy to make the surge and broke the tape first. But those experiences like that, where you're in the pack, you're running, and someone goes and you just go with them, without thinking about it. Those are the fun racing experiences.
His name is Jared Ward, U.S. Olympic team member for the marathon. Been running, I believe it's the concluding day of the Summer Olympics. When are you going to ramp it down in your training toward the Olympics? What have you maintained your course of training? Are there any tweaks along the way, or do you just maintain the consistency?
Oh, there's cycles to the training for sure. The Olympic trials took me longer to recover from than most races, with how hot it was and how dehydrated we got out there. So I spent a couple weeks pretty much all the way off, and then a couple more weeks working back into it, and then a couple more weeks before I could get back up to running workouts at the level that I'd like to be at. And now we've had a few weeks of that. My mileage is back up over 100 miles a week, and legs are feeling pretty good. I run one race out in Colorado this next Monday, a 10K, and then I'll come home from that, recover, and then we'll really start ramping up for Rio. We'll get the mileage up to about 120 miles a week, and we'll spend a couple months doing that until we hit August, and then we'll start resting.
Are you a music fan at all?
Yeah, I played the trumpet in high school.
No way. Jazz? Or just
Yeah, I
jazz?
loved jazz band.
Do you? Is there any particular bands that stand out over the years that you've, sort of identified you?
Oh, sure. I wouldn't say I'm real partial to any particular band,
Yeah.
but the kind of the chill feel of jazz music is good to turn on every once in a while in this this fast-paced world that gets moving too quickly around us. It sets a good mood. I think everyone could use a little jazz music every once in a while.
Jared Ward, I want to thank you so much for being on board here, and thank you for your time. And you seem to be handling the media just fine. I mean, what is that part of it been like to you? I mean, you're always going to get media when you succeed. You've done so in high school, you've done so in the NCAA, and now you're doing so at a professional level. But is there a certain, discomfort with it? Does it
I like people, Tom. So I just enjoy talking to people, and so that's never been too hard. And I think my mission experience, where we're knocking doors or cold contacting strangers for 2 years, that helps with your comfort level talking to people. And I certainly would give my mission credit for building some of that. But no, this media stuff has always been a part of my running, but it certainly took off after this Olympic trials race. I mean, I probably had more interviews in the 3 weeks following the Olympic trials than in the rest of my life put together. And so I'm trying to get good at it. You're nice to comment. So
I appreciate it, Jared. I wish you all the best. I'm not a believer in luck. You're already there. You seem to be healthy, and things seem to be going outstanding for you. All the best, and we'll be pulling for you, man. We'll be following you.
Hey, thanks so much. Thanks for having me on.
You got it. Take care, Jared.